Hello. You want to say hi?
I kind of want to say hi to you. I haven't seen you all day.
I know, you really haven't.
It's been one of those days.
Where have you been?
I've been hunkered down in my office. He's been hunkered down in his office. It's been one of those days.
It has been one of those days. Here, do you want to talk a little closer into the microphone?
I do. Can you make that?
Well, don't stop.
He doesn't like when I touch that. I always want to touch it though.
She wants to do is touch the mic. Touch the mic. No, just touch the arm. The arm is the person that you should be talking to here. I really shouldn't.
You just touched it.
Yeah, because I messed it up by touching it earlier. All right. Well, this is a solid start.
It is an awesome start.
We're a good couple minutes late, and now we're just talking, about nothing.
Smack. Yeah.
Talking smack. All right. So for those of you who are with us tonight, welcome. If you're on Facebook, we'd love to hear where you're from. If you're on YouTube or if you're on our page, would also love to know where you're from. Just throw it in the chat because it's always fun to hear where we're coming from or where you're coming from. We are coming from
Merle's Inlet, South Carolina.
Indeed. Whoop, whoop, indeed.
Which doesn't really know what COVID is. I don't know how many of you are from South Carolina, but down here, down south.
South.
People are on their boats. They're on the beaches. Yeah. They're at the Home Depot.
They're having a good old time.
At the Target.
Yeah.
It's like we're good to go down here.
Like nothing is actually happening.
Meanwhile,
in the rest of the world, exactly.
And we've been virtualizing.
Yeah. I love that word, virtualizing. We have been virtualizing. It has been it has been something. We have been virtualizing. We have been virtualizing like crazy, which is why you guys are here to hear a little bit about how we've been virtualizing. We just finished our second virtual event experience, and it was amazing. Can't wait to share a little bit about that.
It was amazing.
It was.
Yeah, big shout out to Pete Vargas and his team for giving us the opportunity to be part of Advanced 360 Interactive. It was an awesome opportunity to take what would have been an incredible live in-person event, Reach Live, and make it an even more incredible virtual event, Advanced 360i.
For sure. And a couple of shout outs. Jim from Orlando, welcome. Sherry Babb says that we did a great event for Pete. Thank you very much. We had a good time with that. Stacy's from San Diego, baby. Lynn Rose is from Marina Del Rey.
She just had a birthday. Happy birthday, Lynn Rose. I just saw that. I literally meant to reach out to you. It just came up in my feed. So nice. I'm not going to sing. I'm going to save everybody that. But
please.
I'm wishing you a happy birthday.
The live concurrent views will take a dip. If either one of us sing, truthfully. I mean, if Lynn was here to sing.
Yes, that'd be a whole different story.
That's a different story for sure. Let's see. What else do we have? We've got Tom from Durango. We have two people from Down Under. Is New Zealand considered Down Under? Do they consider themselves that? I don't know the answer to that. And actually, Steve, maybe you can answer that. Is New Zealand Down Under, or is that an insult in some way, shape, or form? I know it's like right next to Australia.
Yeah, and Tom Garcia from Durango. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Carrie Tepedino, so good to see you. I'm just looking at this feed of names here. So let's get to it.
Yeah.
What are we going to talk? Are you going to spill some awesome sauce?
Well, so listen, I know some of you have heard some of what we're going to talk about tonight already.
But actually, we've probably, I think for the last 72 hours, been fielding phone call after phone call. It was actually faster and easier to do this than it would be to have 8 million phone calls talking about what we've been doing lately. Yeah. And the cool thing about right now is that I think everybody's thinking virtual, right? Like, what can virtual look like? What can it be? How do you structure it? And the cool thing is, much like a live in-person event, a live virtual event has a lot of different shapes and sizes. There's a lot of different ways you can do the touch and the tech, and we're seeing all kinds of examples of this. So if there's any silver lining to the dark cloud of COVID-19, I think it is that it has opened up collaboration and people really sharing information in a way that, listen, we have an industry that's really good about sharing, but I think more open than ever before, but also more innovative than ever before. I don't think I've ever had a 45-day sprint that has ever been this creative. And we've done a few of these reinventions in our business, but never anything like this. And every day, like today, we just had a blockbuster innovation, I think. I can't talk about it because we're doing it at our next virtual live event next week. And I don't want to ruin the surprise for anybody who might be attending that event. But I'm so excited about a new thing we're going to unveil. So it literally is like every single day, something new that we're reinventing here at Sage in collaboration with our clients. And so it's a fun time to be sharing and hearing what your questions are and reinventing for the next one.
Well, and I think the thing that's really fun and thankful for us and for those of you on this stream, on this broadcast, who rely on live events as a part of your business, whether it's through learning or through income, and also as a part of your just everyday life, because live events are a great way to interact with people, make new friends, and
yeah, most of us are like, if we deliver them, we also consume them. So if you live, love, and leverage live events, you're probably either hosting them or attending them or both, right? Yeah, and so there's opportunities for all of that.
Yeah, I see. Let's see. I saw Stephen Libman, who I know is deeply entrenched in the live event business. Lynn Rose, obviously. I think I saw Linda Kane on here as well. So lots of people who are, we rely on live events. And I think the thing that's most exciting for those of us who rely on live events for an income, this is both exciting and of course important, is that live events aren't dead.
Far from it.
Yeah.
In fact, like every single day you get a new story of someone whose virtual event outpaced their in-person event. And so for those of you who haven't seen any, we've been trying to do these updates every Thursday. I think we only missed one last Thursday.
We missed last week, yeah.
Because we were immersed in pivoting with Pete Vargas. But really every week we've been doing these in part to share as we're learning and to get your questions and to collaborate. And as a give to the industry, but also just because this is so fun and so interesting, right? Like every single day. So one of the things that I think is most interesting is that we weren't really sure how much of well, first of all, we think live events are live events. So if you're in this space, live, love, leverage live events, we think a virtual event and an in-person event are still a live event. So it's just the way you're presenting it, right? You're doing a live event virtually or you're doing a live event in person, but we look at them as being exactly the same. So that's the first thing. And so 80% we think is the same, but the 20% that isn't, that you do have to put a little addition, care, and thought into is what we think of as tech and touch. So that's that 20% difference, tech and touch. And we're going to talk tonight about what we have been doing differently in tech and touch, and specifically some of the cool new things we did last week.
For sure. And, to Paul Dunn's point, some people are saying that we should realize that virtual events or experiences are, in fact, very, very real. And maybe we shouldn't be calling them virtual events. I agree.
What's a new name, Paul? Feel free. If you think there's a better name, put that in the chat. I would love to know that. We've been talking about virtual experiences and we've been talking about virtualizing. I will tell you this. I think that in this new economy that we're in right now, that virtual events and virtual experiences are the new currency. Experience is the new currency, and virtual allows you to do some unique things. Surprisingly enough, there's some touch points that you can achieve with a virtual event that I don't think we're going to be able to replicate when we go back to doing live in-person events. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight too. What are some of the advantages of the virtual experience that you quite frankly can't deliver in person?
Yeah, exactly. And I do think it's reinventing an entire market segment. It also presents an interesting problem, because people, when they hear virtual event, there's a little bit less value from virtual event because there's been so many things over the years, in recent times anyway, where online is kind of free-ish, right? There's free webinars, you've got free trainings.
Right. Teleseminars, telesummits.
All sorts
Facebook
of access.
Lives, podcasts, livecast.
Exactly.
What is a virtual event? That's part of the problem a little bit, is I think the average person, we were just talking to a trade association, a client of ours that we've had since the first day we opened our doors, so for 16 years. I used to work in-house with them, so I've known them for over a couple decades, we'll say. It's been a long time. And
not that long.
It's been a long time. And so, what's interesting is just kind of stepping out of the norm And part of the big problem that they had for their members is that they are actively doing webinars for their members, and they're actively doing podcasts for their members. And so how do you redefine what a virtual event is? If the audience already thinks they know, it's like, oh yeah, I got it. I know what a virtual event is. Yeah, you guys are doing these webinars all the time. You're like, well, wait a minute. It's not a webinar. Like, well, what is it? Well, it's a virtual experience. Well, what's a virtual experience? And even with some of our own clients who've been with us for over a decade, it's interesting as we started talking about virtual events we're doing, they're like, yeah, we did a live stream at our last event. And I'm like, no, not a live stream. I'm talking about a virtual experience. So I think a big thing that we all have to do collectively as an industry, and the more of us that know about it, the better, is redefine what is a virtual event experience.
For sure. And, Carrie, to your point, we've been using live, online, and experience very much as the differentiator. So we think of, we're using the terms live in-person events and live online events, but kind of removing that word virtual, because I think it's a hard one. The biggest challenge, of course, is then defining what it is, because when somebody hears live online event, they're like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit harder as marketers, as people who are promoting live events, to kind of explain what that experience is. And for those of you who haven't yet been through a really amazing virtual experience, it's even harder to know what it is like, and it's harder to put a value on. But I think as more of these get out there and more people start attending virtual experiences and realize the type of connection and the type of bond that you can make from these experiences, I think the more people will value them. Because here's the thing. For live events, the majority of people come to live events for one of three things. The first thing is content. And content, we've all got nailed, right? I mean, you can do a live stream and deliver great content. The other two things are much harder to do virtually or online, and it's connection and community. And those are the three main things that people come to live events for. So how do you replicate connection and community, that hallway experience, that bar experience, the ability to sit next to someone, and when the host says, look at the person next to you, do this exercise, person with the curliest hair goes first. In this situation, that would be me.
It's true.
Yeah, curliest hair goes first. How do you, and now all of a sudden we're talking and we're actually having an intimate conversation. You like that?
I do.
Yeah. We're having an intimate conversation. How do you replicate that? And with something else that's happening that I'm super excited about is how do you replicate it, but how do you replicate it at scale? Because that's pretty easy to do with, 50 people. You've got Zoom, which is an amazing platform. We're going to talk more about that tonight for sure, because I think of all of the platforms that we've seen.
There's a lot. I was just part of a group. One of the girls in there had professionals. I feel like girls. We all call each other girls, right?
Women.
One of the women in there had put together a list. It was like 28 different virtual platforms that you could look at. And we've been I think it's safe to say we've looked at them all, been on calls with a lot of the, founders, and not to put any of them down. Like, there's some amazing, cool things that are happening out there. But one of the things we're learning with virtual is sometimes just simple is easier, right? The average person knows how to use Zoom. It's pretty intuitive. It's pretty user-friendly. So we've been defaulting to Zoom as a platform. We're going to talk about that tonight, like the good, bad, and the ugly of using Zoom, or in our case, Zoomzilla, where you take, a million Zooms and weave them together to one super interactive live event.
Not quite a million, but enough.
But a lot.
So the other thing I want to tell you, I'd like to just say this up front. And we are the opposite of salesy and markety. So this is probably not the way I'm supposed to do it. But I also want to tell you, Barry and I, there's only so much that we can share with you in what'll be probably 60 to 90 minutes tonight. And, we'll keep answering questions. But we have decided to do a 3-day event, 3-day virtual experience or online experience at the end of this month.
Not a webinar, not a telephone.
No, none of those things. Yeah. At the end of this month, May 29th through the 31st. And we'll tell you at the end of this how you can join us for that. But
can we tell them the name? It's so good.
Oh, yeah. It's called The Virtual Event on Virtual Events.
Yeah, right. It's like, it's not just any event. It's The Virtual Event on virtual events.
Yeah. So we are not.
Wanted to make sure you wouldn't get confused about what it was.
Yeah, we're really original with the naming process. We wanted to, as part of marketing for this, we didn't want to deal with reinventing the name at the same time. But I do agree, Sandra, Stephen, Paul, Carrie, I do think online experience is really the right word for it. So let's give you, last week we talked with two people who aren't clients. We talked with, or actually 2 weeks ago, Ryan Levesque and Danny Inney, who both have had successful virtual experiences or virtual events for the most part in their case, and done an amazing job.
6 and 7 figure success, doing great. It doubled more than doubled their numbers, which is a trend we're also seeing. So we're going to talk about that tonight.
Exactly. But for the 2 events that we've done thus far, and we have another one coming up in a week and a half with Mr. Jeff Walker, Product Launch Formula Live is going to be a online experience, and we're excited to create that.
We are.
But the first 2 events that we've had have had some amazing metrics that I think are really great for you to know about. Number one, they've both been significantly more profitable than their in-person counterparts, because both of these events were events that took place last year and in some cases for the last couple years. And so we have a metric to go by. This is how many people they had at their last event. This is how much revenue they generated.
How many people checked in? How many people, actually what we call the butts and seats metric, how many people not only checked in, but actually showed up session after session after session.
Exactly.
So all those metrics that we track in-person live event world, we track in virtual live event world.
Exactly.
And we're going to be sharing those.
So the first one almost doubled from a profit perspective. It was a smaller event, gross revenue of around just over $700,000, but year over year, between the increased revenue and the decreased cost, because you don't have travel expenses, you don't have hotel expenses, your AV expenses are significantly less.
No food and beverage minimums.
Yeah,
no
so many advantages
rooms,
to going virtual.
No liability with the hotel.
They were still, with that, able to increase their revenue and increase their revenue and increase their profits significantly.
And the profit piece is a big one because, I think we live in a marketer math industry, right? We all are proud of our gross numbers. Like we'd love to, talk about the number of people that we have registered and the number of people who checked in and the conversion metric and the number of people who bought. And those are important numbers. But at the end of the day, what really drives a profitable business is profit. And so what did you actually net on that event, not just what did you gross on that event? So what's awesome about virtual live events is in every case, the net is better.
Yeah. So that first event, which some of you know, went from a 300-person event to a 1,200-person event registered in both cases. And in terms of show up, and Sandra just asked about the fall off from live events. We're going to cover that as well. Scott McCain.
Hey, Scott McCain.
Welcome. Nice to see you. He had a question. Would you compare the viability of starting with a virtual event versus having an in-person event established that you move to the virtual format? That's a great question. And the second example that we have tonight actually did that. They, rather than taking their in-person event and just converting it to virtual, they took their in-person event, postponed it to next year, and restructured and announced a brand new event with a brand new name. Now, admittedly, some of the content was the same, but the marketing for it was significantly different because it was all around pivoting their business. But let's stick with that first one for the moment. 1,200 registered. We had 1,000 people check in, and I'm going to talk about the check-in process because there's a few different areas. I've got some notes here.
I was going to say, should we kind of give them an overview of what you're going to talk about, what we're going to talk about?
No, it's a surprise.
Oh, it's a surprise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how we're rolling tonight. You'll have to guess.
Well, it's a surprise to both of us, really. So we had 1,000 people actually check in. And then for 3 days straight, that event started at 10 o'clock and went till about 5.
Yeah.
Actually 5 on the last day. So long days. They had about 700 to 900 people with them consistently over the course of those 3 days. So unlike a webinar or a live broadcast like the one that we're doing right now, where we have about right now, I can tell you the numbers are about 35% show up for this broadcast. For live events, we actually saw about a 70% show up of the people who checked in. So 70 to 80, actually.
Yeah. I was like, that math isn't right. But
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
7 to 900, 7 to, yeah.
So, but I think it's important, that context. So 900 on the first day, 800 on the second day, and 700 on the third day. These are all ish. These are blended averages for each day, because we do counts in an in-person event every single session, in a virtual event every single session.
Yeah.
We're looking at those ebbs and flows, and you should too, because these days people vote with their phones and their feet. So if you're on stage and you see everyone on their phone, unless they're all taking notes, they're checked out.
For sure.
And they vote with their feet. They just get up and leave these days. So
And it's even easier virtually, because you just do this, whoop, and we're done.
But I thought the interesting thing on that first event, we were all kind of raving about it behind the scenes, because were we to have 1,000-person in-person event, we would have 900 the first day and then 800 the second day. We'd probably be around 700 the third day. There is always some natural attrition on live in-person events. So we were super psyched to see that a virtual event was tracking pretty close. Like, that metric was pretty close.
It was, for sure. Let's see. So with that, there's a couple questions about length of days, and we didn't obviously go from 10 o'clock in the morning straight through. We built in mid-morning breaks, mid-afternoon breaks. We built in lunch breaks the same way we would at a live event.
Yeah, but what was different is that I think it's safe to say that pretty much all of our in-person live events start at 8:30 or 9. Whatever time zone we're in. Mm-hmm. So 8:30 or 9, whatever city you're in. And they generally are about a 12-hour day. Day 1, day 2 is usually a little bit longer, and day 3 is a little bit shorter. That's roughly what we do. We played around with a 10 a.m. start or 11 a.m. start. Me, not being an early riser, I could not be more delighted to not have an 8:30 a.m. start personally. And I think some of our hosts agree, and some of our attendees agree. But you're factoring in different time zones and different coasts and that kind of thing. And so the first one we did 10 a.m., the second we did 11 a.m. I think both worked equally well.
I thought that tracking the metrics, the 11 a.m. start time, which is what we did for the second one, worked even better.
Fared slightly better.
Yeah.
And the reason is, it was interesting on
East
the first
Coast,
one that started,
West Coast.
the West Coasters, the ones that the first event we did, we started at 10 a.m. We saw the audience peak at 11. So the next one, we're like, why don't we start at 11? And sure enough, we had better numbers starting at 11 o'clock. And also we kept those numbers over the 3 days. So we saw a more consistent show up rate day 2 and day 3.
Excellent.
So I think that worked well.
Yeah. And actually, I'm going to say this for Chris Smith on my team. Chris, go ahead and put the link below the video, because there's Julie, and hey, Julie, nice to see you, is asking, she would like to enroll right now rather than wait. I'll give you that one if you'd like to just go ahead and enroll. We were supposed to go through the process. I really don't know how this works, so we're just kind of winging it.
I know how it works. So here's the deal.
Yeah.
I'm going to serve you as hard as I can tonight, and then if you like what you see, you should come join us at the virtual event on Virtual Events. How about that?
And at the same time, if you want to jump in right away, the link is right below the video, or will be within the next 20 seconds or so.
And post your questions, seriously. Not only are we going to try and answer them tonight, but it'll help us produce an even better event for you in a few weeks.
Exactly. So then that's some metrics in terms of show up. Let's talk about the second event, because you're like, okay, that happened a month ago when people were just, we all went into lockdown and they weren't sick of their kids, or they were sick of their kids, or maybe they weren't out yet, and so on and so forth. So what's it looking like now? Because now we're a little bit past that. States are starting to open up a little bit. People are rebelling from being in their houses and just leaving and going to the beach here in South Carolina anyway. Yeah,
unless you're in South Carolina. We kind of never closed, it felt like, but yeah.
So for that, and to answer MH's question, all of the times that we share are Eastern time. Because that's the time zone we live in.
Our studio's on the East Coast. So, yeah. But for wherever you are, like if I were, let's think about this. If I were starting on the West Coast, we just had this conversation with the client. If I were starting on the West Coast, I would not start my event at 11 a.m. West Coast time. No. I think the challenge with that is your East Coasters are it's so late. They're going to be so tired, especially if you follow our model. You're going to be making the offer very late their time, and it's not good. So, yeah, default to East Coast time wherever you are. So 11 to 6-ish, 11 to 7-ish, East Coast time, we think is the right way to go.
For sure. So with that, the next event that took place just happened. We had, ballpark just over 3,000 people register approximately. We had about 2,800 people actually go through our check-in process. And then we had 2,200 to 2,400 people with us consistently from day 1 through day 3 from 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the morning through till these were longer days, 8 to 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So,
and I think it's fair to say that I think Mr. Pete Vargas would be okay with me saying this. If not, he can write me a note later. But he is prone to sometimes going over on his time slightly. So we had a couple, nights where we ran a little longer than normal, and it was a great test because people stuck until the very end. So, hats off to Pete, because part of what got them to stick is incredibly good content and great connection and his ability to build great community. And so I think you can't dismiss that piece of it. It's not as simple as just looking at the metrics. When do you start? When do you end? You really have to go all in and creating incredible content, opportunities for connection, and opportunities for community. You have to factor that in. But if so, I think both of our last hosts did that, and they were rewarded with audiences that stuck with them. Yeah. Good numbers, little attrition, and they stuck with them for all 3 days. And not just for all 3 days, but all day, all 3 days.
And in Pete's case, gross revenue anyway. I'm not going to share the exact number, but I will tell you that it's looking like it's going to be about 2.5 times gross revenue in his case, because I don't know the net entirely, but 2.5 times revenue from the year prior. And I can tell you from the event side of things, what the event itself costs is significantly less than the in-person live event that they were planning, because we know what we spent on that side of things.
And this is where we get into what we call a purpose-driven payday, because regardless of whether you're doing in-person or virtual, we look at a live event as a purpose-driven payday. And what I mean by that is impact and income, sales and service, right? So you want to have, from a purpose perspective, your impact is going to be significantly more. You're reaching more people, which is awesome. You're serving more people, which is awesome. And then when you reach and you serve on that high level, what is that?
Oh.
When you reach and serve on that high level, then you're more likely to also reap more reward, which is your revenue. So that sales as service methodology, I don't know what that cool effect was. Is it only us seeing that?
No, you like that? Here, I'll get rid of that for you. Here, no, I got you. There we go. It was a cool effect. Maybe we'll put that on.
It was like a
later.
Wayne and Garth moment or something. I thought I was going to yeah. So, you're reaching more people, you're serving more people, and that gives you the opportunity to make more money, which is good for everybody. So, because when you make money, like for every dollar made, there's a person served. And when you have those deliverables over the course of the year, that is your chance to have more lasting impact. I mean, listen, we love a live event, live, love, leverage live events, but there's only so much transformation you can create in 3 days. So if we can create an opportunity for people to invest in themselves, to be enrolled in themselves, and then to invest in themselves so that they get a longer opportunity to be with you, that's where the real transformation happens. So of course we want a sale, but what we really want is for that service to be more extended so that you're getting the impact and the legacy that you're really looking for.
So let's talk a little bit about what people what led to, or what we believe led to that great experience, that high stick rate, and then of course the high conversions with sales results.
Yeah, what do you think it was?
Well, it comes down to two things. First off, from the attendee experience, and second off, from the host experience. And there's a few things that we did. You like looking at yourself up there?
I was wondering, yeah, it is. The light's different there than there.
What's a different TV?
Yeah.
So right behind the camera, guys, there's a big TV. And I'm amazed. Barry's doing a really good job of actually looking at the lens. Most of the time when there's a camera.
I'm checking my hair.
Yeah. What's going on?
If you ever see me looking in a weird spot, it's probably me checking my hair. Or checking his hair. I'm never sure which one is going to look more crazy, mine or his.
For sure. So, no, Julie, that special effect was not the drugs, although maybe it was. Okay.
What are you talking about?
So, attendee experience. Let me tell you how this got framed up and what I think from a starting point led to high turnout. First off, for the most part, this wasn't a free event. For our first host, it was an event that they transitioned the purchase tickets to next year's event, and then they invited everybody to this year's event for free. So for that one, it was. Yeah. For the next one, there was
we should call them V1, V2.
V1 and V2. Confusing. Nice. Yeah, event number. How about EV2? Okay. Like electric vehicle or event. Anyway. Yeah. For event number 1, the event was for the most part free, but it was a free with purchase. There was a purchase of a $3,000 product at some point in the last 6 months that came along with it. So they were committed attendees. The second group for EV2, they've spent between $100 and $1,000 for their ticket, and their experience varied a little bit as a result of that.
Deliverables, yeah.
Yep. So the first one, the first thing that contributed to the attendee experience. I have to not have my computer in front of me the next time I do this. No, the challenge is I keep getting other notifications. I just have to turn off notifications. I muted my computer. That was a good starting point.
Yeah, so going back to the deliverables while he's doing that, it's just, I think it is worth thinking about. We've seen a lot of people trying to pluck a number out of thin air, like what's the right number? And that happened in in-person live event world too. And rather than just plucking a number out of thin air, going, Bob charged this and Susie charged that, so I'll charge this, is really thinking about context, like, how deep is your relationship with that customer? Were they already promised an event? Is this replacing that event or in place of that event? Or is this a brand new event? And then what are the deliverables going to be? Is the ticket the event? Is there swag that comes along with it? Is there a VIP component? I mean, all of those things should be factored in. At Sage, we say a lot, form follows function. And so once you decide what the event is worth and what the ticket is worth and what the deliverables are worth, and you put that in context, not just of other events that you've seen, but your own context of your own deliverables, your own events, the services that you offer, I think then it becomes a little bit easier to decide what the ticket price should be and how to escalate it. Do you have 1 week to sell this event? We've been through that. Like, I think Dylan had 2 weeks to put his event together. I think Pete had just over 3. So if you have a really short runway, that's going to really compress your ability to do early bird, regular, et cetera. If you have more time, then you have a longer runway to actually play with the ticket price a little bit more and see what's performing best.
For sure. And Sandra asked a quick question that I want to answer, because it's one of the things that we made a decision early on with these virtual experiences. And the question is, was recordings available for the live events? And the answer to that question is no. So that was one of the things that differentiated these virtual experiences so far, and hopefully going forward, from most online events, right? This webinar, as an example, probably will have a replay. In fact, I'm pretty sure it will. And most events do.
I would not have revealed that till the end.
I'm sorry, my bad. They know the drill. I mean, this one's a Facebook Live, so obviously when we go offline, it's still there, and that one's a YouTube Live. So
I'm just kidding you. But yeah, I think that the key though is, do you want them to be with you the whole time? And I think part of the stick is they have to be present to participate, and so they're not catching it on the night shift. They're not catching it on a replay. There are no recordings, or they're paying for access to recordings that are delivered later, significantly later, like 30 to 60 days later. So if this is hot content, and your content should be, and it's very present, and it should be, then they're going to want it now. They want to consume it now. So they'll still buy the recordings. They're excited to have them so they can revisit it, but that's going to be 30 to 60 days after the event. So I absolutely think that contributed to stick.
For sure. So that's number one. That decision was made early on, and it was shared in the marketing of the live event in both cases. The second thing that contributed to the attendee experience that had them showing up is about a day to 2 days before the live event, they actually got a physical box in the mail. And in that box, there was some swag, some branded items, some printed product. Both, I believe, actually, one box had a notebook, a pen, and it had 3 envelopes in it that said, "Do not open until instructed." It had a little door hanger that said, "Shh, I'm busy learning in here." What else? It had a sticker in it. That was the first one.
Yeah, just some fun little treats. And the second one had, a workbook and some emojis. I loved that. Some emojis that they could use to emote when they liked something, easily on their screens.
I thought it would have been funny. Personally, I was voting for a poop emoji to be included in there, so that if people weren't happy about the content, they could show the poop emoji.
Yeah, Blue argued for that to be in our swag box, and that got a hard no. That got a not our brand.
I really did get outvoted yet again. At some point, somebody's going to say, "That's a great idea. Let's include it." That hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, that's going to be a different kind of event.
So that was the
I
first
actually
thing.
don't want to be the speaker on stage who's looking at a sea of poop emojis.
Well, I mean, but if you are that speaker, don't you want to know? Probably not.
I don't know if I do. But I think when our nephew Grayson comes, that could be a fun game you guys play.
Yeah, well, there it is.
He's 9. No, actually he's 11. That's scary. He's 11. Anyway,
All right.
So no to poop emojis. But yeah, so I mean, I would be thinking about for your swag box, is it like a fun box? Is it a serious box? Is it, branded tchotchkes of yours? Is it stuff they can actually use in order to get the event done? Is it going to facilitate the learning, or is it going to accentuate the experience? I really this is a pet peeve of mine in any live event world. I really do not like gratuitous swag, meaning like some cheap swag. You wanted to do swag, but you didn't want to put money into it. You didn't think about what it was going to translate into. And so you threw it in a box, or you threw it in the reg bag, or you put it on their seat, or whatever it is. And it ends up in the trash can. Like, as an event producer, the amount of swag that we see wasted is literally, it's kind of sad, actually. It's sad, actually. It's like in a landfill somewhere. So if you're going to do swag,
I've got a lot of branded t-shirts around.
Yeah, but you love a branded t-shirt, but he's an exception. Well, a lot of people love branded t-shirts, actually. But good quality t-shirt if you're going to go that direction. So anyway, it's just, again, form follows function. If you're going to do swag, and I think it's great to do it, Blue's going to tell you why, just make sure it's intentional. There should be intention behind it. I'd rather have 2 good pieces of swag that are likely to be kept than 10 that are going to end up in the trash can.
For sure. And for those of you that are coming to our event, you'll see some of our favorite things in a box that will be coming to you.
I've been dying to do my own swag. We had some
Aren't you
fun
excited?
with it. Yeah.
I can't wait to get ours.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but seriously, why is swag important?
Well, it's important because when it arrived, it made the event tactile. It made it real, right? So all of a sudden you have in your hand, first off, a physical reminder of the event that you signed up for.
And
right?
when's the last time you went to a webinar and they sent you a box of goodies? I mean, probably never, right? So it's drawing a line in the sand,
It's
right?
drawing a line in the sand, and it's also, email reminders get lost. Text reminders get lost. A FedEx guy knocks on your door and says, here's your box. And in the box, it says, there's a welcome letter in there that reminds them that they have to check in and do their stuff. All of that.
Web etiquette, like what to do,
It makes
shaping
it
their expectations.
Real. Yeah, it makes it real. So I think that was the first thing that made it real and increased our attendance, increased our show up rate compared to what other people are doing in the live event space online. You guys like that? We're going that route. The second thing, and I mentioned it in passing just about 10, 15 seconds ago, is event check-in. And much like a live event where you actually have to go check into the event and get your badge and probably sign a waiver and you get your bag, right? Your event bag. We did an actual check-in that lasted for 2 days in both events. And what it looked like was this. You got you got an email that said it's time to check in. You clicked on it. You then went through, you signed a waiver, and you saw a short video that was me explaining what the dashboard was going to look like. And then you had to click a button in order to get to the next step. And this was the key to the check-in process. That button said Start Tech Check. And that starting of the tech check launched a Zoom meeting with one of our team members that said, hey, welcome to the event. Not like automated. They actually they were
like
a real
human
person sitting there saying, hey, how's it going? Nice to see you, Barry.
T-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. Nice to see you, Barry. Do me a favor. Can you hear me okay? Just raise your hand if you can hear me if their video was turned on. And if
let's say their video was off, then what would happen?
Go ahead and click the little camera button, the video button in the bottom right-hand corner of your Zoom window to turn on your camera, because really important, the host, whoever it's going to be, is going to be able to see you this weekend, and we want to make sure that you can take full part in the experience. So it was... I
think that again, what you're thinking of is stacking experiences that say this is not the normal experience.
Exactly.
So something happens when you register. Something happens when it arrives at your door. Something happens when you go to click that link and whoa, there's a live person there. And then one of our up levels that I absolutely loved at this last event was we got one of our good friends, Grant, love him. He's an Aussie. And he did tech check over the evening. So we didn't promote the evening hours, but we went ahead and sent a link out. And we thought, some of our internationals probably would love to register during their hours instead of ours. And so Grant ran his own tech check for us. And we piped in like, I don't know, it's probably 11:30 one night just to see what was going on.
Yeah.
And just watching people's faces, like their expressions when they realized that there was a real human, not to mention a good looking Aussie with a great accent, but somebody welcoming them in person made such a huge difference. So if you think about that, like that is a really different experience. And we learned so much about our attendees. Like we coached our team on really talking to them. Don't rush through tech check. Like, hey, where are you calling in from? Great. Good to see you. If more than one person came in at a time, introduce them to one another. Where are you from? Where are you from? Like make that the first opportunity for what? Connection and community.
Yep.
So don't freak out if you have two people checking in at once, and welcome them. And as people arrive, welcome them. It becomes a little check-in party and they're experiencing it together. That worked. I think at some points for Pete's, we might've had as many as 20 people checking in together with one of our team members.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Well, and it's yet another, like you said, yet another touch point that makes this event different. I've got a box in the mail, and now before the event started, I've actually spoken to a real human who has helped me make sure that I'm ready for this event, because this event is different than others.
Yeah. And we didn't want to waste the first precious moments of starting with 1 million people flooding the chat saying, I don't know how to do this, and I'm not sure about that. This isn't working. So we knew right away if they had terrible internet, we could tell. We could make recommendations for doing a speed test. All these things get handled beforehand. So I don't know, in live event world, in-person live event world,
yes,
it's pretty hard to start on time.
Oh, it's impossible.
Like for your very first session, I don't know, for those of you that are hosts and those of you that are third-party planners or in-house planners even, that no matter how committed you are to that 9 o'clock start time or 8:30 start time, last minute people checking in, host isn't quite ready, whatever it might be, you end up starting at like 15 minutes later. And you always have the best of intentions, but it always happens. Both of our virtual events, we started on time, and we had a huge number of the audience with us. So I think it leads to the next touch point, which is doors opening.
Yeah.
Are you going to say any more about Reg?
I'm just going to close out one little piece on Reg. First off, it was 2 full days, started about 9 o'clock Eastern, went till 7 o'clock at night. Second off,
9 o'clock. It didn't start at 9 Eastern.
9 a.m. Eastern.
Oh, Reg.
Yeah, registration, check-in.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, we did it for one reason, and we've kind of already said the reason why we're going to continue to do it regardless. The first reason that we did it was because we did want to, because we were using Zoom as a platform, we wanted to make sure that everybody had been in a Zoom meeting already and had Zoom on their computer so that we could start on time when we said we were going to start. The reason we're going to keep doing it, though, is that touch point, that community, that connection point where they already, before the event started, have made connections with other attendees and with our team.
Yeah, what it trained them to do was to love help desk. Essentially, help desk is the team that's checking them in at registration. So if you've been to an in-person event, what starts to happen is as they might have a problem at Reg, and our team member Kristen helps them. So now they feel like they have a relationship with Kristen. So now anything that happens over the course of the event, they're seeking out Kristen. Hey, what time are we supposed to be back? It's like Kristen's their buddy now. It happens with all of our team members and with yours too. So what was awesome about that virtual check-in is they started building those relationships with the team. And we told them, if you have any questions, if you need anything, all you have to do is come back to dashboard and click help desk. Me or one of my team members will be here to support you. So it literally became the back of room. Yep. So, that back of room experience was replicated by help desk because you had a group of people you knew who were super high touch, super high service, and invited you to come back whenever you wanted to. So it's not, literally that help desk buzzes all 3 days, all day long with people like, I forgot this, or tell me about that, or where can I find this? All the things that you would normally see at an in-person event. And I loved that. I don't think without that they would be as comfortable going to help desk.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, and we were also, there was another thing that we did, which I'll talk about next, or after the second attendee experience item that I think contributed highly to our engagement. And because they stayed engaged, then of course contributed to conversions, but it was gamification.
But before we go to gamification, I just want to say that the help desk people, for those of you who are in, the sales mode, who are going to leverage your live event with a high ticket offer, when the sale is made, when the offer or the invitation is made, where are they going to go?
Help
Well,
desk.
normally they go to back of room, but now they're going to go to help desk, and they have a relationship with that team. Those are the same people that are supporting them and helping them to make a decision in a buying moment. So establishing that early on and maintaining that connection really helps. How do we keep making sure they went back to help desk? That's where gamification comes in. That's where the resident techie can explain.
For sure. So one of the things that we did is we had a unique dashboard, or a very, a simple but unique website that we designed for both of these events. And I say we because it really was our team. And it was, we're not web designers by any stretch of the imagination. So, we made it fairly simple, but unique enough that it was on brand for the event. And on that website was where they got access to the help desk, where they got access to resources, where they got access to an enrollment link, should they decide to do that, coaching zone, all of those things. And the other thing that they did, or that we did, was introduce something called gamification. And gamification was essentially us rewarding the attendees for actions that we were hoping they would take. So when they logged in, they would get gamification points.
Yeah, I wish there was another word for gamification.
Yeah, I know.
What could another word be? Like the same way we're going to come up with another word for virtual events.
Let's just call rewards.
It's like a treasure hunt.
Treasure hunts.
I like to think of it as a treasure hunt.
Nice.
Because, I don't know, gamification somehow techs me out. I'm not really into tech. I hear gamification. It kind of makes me feel like...
I have to be honest with you.
It makes you like I have to work too hard. Like,
I hate that word, to be honest. It's a horrible word. But that's
but
what
the thing is, it works. And here's why it works. I think it is a little bit more like a treasure hunt. As they started to get points, we didn't tell them how you get points. As they started to get points, it was a little bit of like, wait a minute, I got points. How many points did I get? Why did I get that many points? How many points do you have? So we started to see a lot of interactivity at help desk for people to coming literally just to check in on their points, and also in Facebook groups where they're checking in together saying, hey, how many do you have? How many do you have? So that whole concept of point reward, rewarding for taking action, and leaderboard. I mean, what are you ultimately doing? If you're an event that does high ticket offers, you're rewarding taking action. You're rewarding being engaged. You're rewarding showing up. And the more they are engaged to show up in order to get points, the more likely they are to stick with you. So, and it's a little bit competitive, which is never a bad thing.
Julie uses the word funify.
Funify. I like that.
Love that.
Funify is so much better. I'm definitely using that.
I don't know that you can use
better than treasure hunt. So
how about eventify?
No, funify. Done. It's funify. It's even fun to say funify.
We're gonna funify the process. So that was one of the things that one of the many things, but I think one of probably the last one that we'll talk about tonight that we did to encourage the attendees to stay engaged over the course of those 3 days, because the more action they took, the more points they got. The more points they got, we actually used the Funify points. Yeah. And we used them on stage through giving them rewards when they showed up, by swag and so on and so forth.
Good swag.
But also there was a big prize for, in both cases, like the top 10 to 15% of all attendees.
Can we just share a secret on that? What's
Sure.
a good prize and what isn't?
Yeah. Are you
What's
asking?
a bad prize? I know the answer. Do you know it?
What's a bad prize?
Yeah, what's a bad prize?
But listen, here's my thought. A good prize is something the attendee wants. A bad prize is something the attendee could care less about.
Okay, well, that is one answer. That is true. That's not a wrong answer. But what I was,
That's one answer. So let me tell you the answer that I would have given.
If you were our client, we were consulting with you on this. We had to actually work through this with our clients. It's like, I don't ever want the prize to be something that you could buy. Right? Because if the prize is something I could pay for, and I'm actually maybe going to make that offer at the event, like I'm going to sell the thing that you can win. If I'm at the top of the leaderboard and I want that thing, am I going to buy that thing and then try and return it if I win? Or am I going to hold off buying in case I win? So I think that botches it from the beginning. So my golden rule is, and we've used this in other ways at other events, I think it holds true here, is that if you're going to offer something, make it something that they cannot buy, that they really want and they cannot buy, because then it jacks up that desire even more, because it's like there are things they can buy over the course of the event, but then there's this really awesome thing they really want and they'll never be able to get it unless they win. So it doesn't botch your sales in any way. It creates a massively competitive leaderboard. And then I think the next step of it is that it should be something that doesn't really cost you anything other than maybe your time. So creating an amazing result, like an amazing reward for the first buyer and the first 5 buyers and the first 10 buyers or leaders, first 20 leaders. It's not like a bonus when you buy, by the way. It's for the leaders. People are at the top of the leaderboard. Is that, it does take your time, but let's say it's helping them. Let's say you're announcing the prizes and you're going to say, and the top winner is going to get an hour of Blue and I's time where we will design your high ticket offer.
That may be the top prize at the virtual event on virtual events.
Tell us if you think that's a good one. So it's not like you can pay us to design a high ticket offer, but we don't really do that solo. Like we don't just jump on calls with people and design high ticket offers, all day long. It's part of a process. But if you were to take us and we've done, I don't know, we do 30 events a year. We've generated, I think, what did we last calculate?
Over 450.
Over $400 million for clients. It's a big number, right? It's lots of millions. So we've done that for our clients. Would you like for us to help design your high ticket offer? Would that be awesome if you won that? That's probably worth competing for. And then let's say the 5 after that, it might be, we would design your gamification plan for your virtual event, like start to finish, that kind of thing, like give you all the behind the scenes on how to design the gamification, figure out the points and structure it specific to your event to make people want to get to the top of the leaderboard. And here's what it does. Seeds the thing that you're good at, that you're selling, right? Like when you talk about those prizes, you're talking about why they're valuable. It starts making them want that. When they hear your offer and it has shades of that in it, then they're like, oh, I definitely want that because I'm at 250. I'm never getting to the top of the leaderboard, but I can buy this thing that includes that thing. So I think when you work it out that way, you're more likely to have this, all roads lead to your high ticket offer. Now we've got everything we're doing, working toward engagement, stick, connectivity, content, and ultimately buying the high ticket offer. What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at, well, first off, Julie said apparently funify is Lisa's word, so we just have to hug her next time we see her and we can use it.
Is it Lisa Sasevich?
I don't know if it's Lisa Sasevich or one of the Lisa Crisali who's in here. I'm not sure. Anyway, but the one what actually cracked me up was Stephen Libman said, we've used fun bucks, but dyslexics like him mess it up, and that's a really interesting word.
I'm not going to say that word out loud. You'll have to do that.
Ux. Yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, have a leaderboard, structure it with gifts that they really want that they can't buy. And, ideally they're things that don't actually cost you money, and then have them stack. The top person gets all the things below. The top 5 get all the things below. The top 10 get all the things below. And the number that we use is dependent on how many people are in the room. Like if you have an event for 500 people, you can't have a top 250. At least I wouldn't recommend that. So just structure it according to the size of your event.
So next up, let's switch gears a little bit, because those are a couple things from the attendee experience that have been pretty amazing. Actually, I'm going to give you one last one, and I'm just going to touch on this.
Yes.
One of the things that we did in both cases is we leveraged Zoom's breakout functionality, the ability to break down large groups into small groups. And we implemented a lot of active learning exercises, which got basically the ability for, let's call it masterminding or workshopping, the ability for attendees to work together in small groups of 4, 5, or 6 people on a regular basis. So you take this big group of, in Dylan's case, or in Event 1's case, between 700 and 900 people, and break them down into small groups and allow them to work with each other. They get to know each other. They get to like and trust each other. You have more connection, more community, but also it's a different type of learning, right? You've got your, you hear it, was that auditory? Mm-hmm. Then you have the people who write it. Is that nonverbal? I don't know what kinesthetic learning is. That writing? I don't remember what they are.
I'm in like a pop quiz right now.
I really don't remember what the three are, but one of the things are, you like that?
It's active learning. We don't really know exactly what it is, but we know it works.
I don't remember the words for it, but it's one of the first way that they learn is by hearing the thing. Then you give them an exercise where they write down some ideas about the thing they just learned. Then you have them talk to each other. So that's two methods. Then you have them talk to each other. So they're talking. Those are the three different ways that, from an active learning perspective, seriously, fun bucks to you is what I'm going to say.
Buck fun to you. Anyway, I just want to give a quick shout out to John Berghoff, who taught us a lot of this and did it much better than we're doing.
Well, and
we're better learners than we are describers.
This is actually why John's actually going to be teaching a session at the virtual event on virtual events.
We love him. I've learned so much from John in the last 30 days, and I really can't say enough good things about just how he's broken down what active learning is and helps hosts not only make it more interactive, and he funifies it, but he also the specificity when you're sending them into a breakout room really matters. You can't just be like, and now go into breakout rooms and share, because no one knows what that means, right? So specificity really matters. I think John's a master of that. And at the virtual event on virtual events, he's going to be talking about it because Blue can't.
All right.
But you get the gist.
Yeah, so, I hope so. Despite my blah.
Okay, what's next?
So next up, let's talk about the events that we did from a host's experience. Now, I'm going to show you some photos of the studio that we created over the course of the last 5 to 6 weeks to host our virtual events from, or our virtual experiences or online experiences from. Hey, Christian, why don't we go ahead and bring up this slide? So we created a stage where in front of the host, in front of the stage, are a bank of televisions. Now, there's obviously a lot going on here, and we're going to talk about how you could apply what I'm sharing with to you, because you don't need all of this technology to make it work. But in our case, because we operated at scale, meaning, over 2,000 attendees for Pete, almost 1,000 attendees for Dylan, it was great for the host to be able to walk back and forth, not just stand still or sit still like we are right now. But he was actually able to walk back and forth, see the faces and names of a lot of people simultaneously. This is me interacting from as an MC. I did a little bit of that, which was fun. Ooh, Barry talking to Pete. But just some shots of what this looked like. We had a big screen behind us, which allowed us at any given point to put up almost 400 people on that screen behind them. Created a great effect. The ability for the attendees who are watching at home to realize, oh, he really is looking at all of us. He really is engaging with us. This isn't just a one-way conversation, camera only. Yeah. It gave us the ability to bring on panels like this one here, and just have a much different back and forth experience from the host's perspective. Christian, you're good. So well, we keep getting this question, like, how do you get people to turn their cameras on, right? To have the, video on. And I think the first is set the expectation, the letter that goes in the swag box, then set the expectation when they show up at Reg and do their check-in, and then set the expectation during door opening when the MC is warming the crowd up, and then set the expectation with the host when he shows up and he's like, Susie, it's so good to see you. And Bob, I love that backdrop you have. And John, I can't believe you're here. Lisa, thank you. Okay. Auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. I'm going to remember that.
I think you said it.
I think I did. You
said it. You just didn't say it with certainty.
Well, because I wasn't certain.
Which made us mock you. So
it didn't make us mock you. It just made you mock me. Bob did say this is hilarious.
So, but yeah, I think when the host starts to call your name, and during check-in, we have people put their name on. This is one little trick we learned. It's like somebody might sign in and think they're being cute, and they make their label like Chunky Monkey. And you're like, okay, well, it's like, hey, Chunky Monkey, good to see. That's weird. So then you're never going to call that person. But if they put their actual name on there, like Barry Baumgardner, and let's say I'm a VIP-VIP, then Pete could say, hey, Barry, it's so good to see you. I'm so happy you're a VIP. I can't wait to see you at our lunch today where we're going to do Q&A. So it allows that interactivity. And now that your name is on there, do you want to be the one person that has your name in a black screen, like you're clearly just not playing full out? You don't. So you're going to start to turn your screen on, because the more the host interacts with you and calls to you and speaks to you and says, I'd like to hear from you. Let's put you up on the big screen. I'd like to hear from you. Let's share an aha. Bob, I want you to be at our next mic, that kind of thing. All of a sudden, you've taken what an in-person event does and virtualized it. And this is where I think virtual might actually be better than in person. Because if you've been a host on a stage in a big room, bigger than, let's say, 100 people, you know that you're only really seeing the faces that are in the first few rows. After that, it becomes a sea of faces. And, you can't see a badge that's down here when someone's sitting at their table or in their chair. You're seeing a face, but not a badge. So here's the great thing about Zoom and being able to really see people is that you're seeing their face, you're seeing their name, you're seeing their home environment, which somehow just increases this intimacy because you're meeting them where they are in their living room or in their home office or in their kitchen or on their back deck or whatever it might be. And you're able to talk directly to them, and they really know that you're seeing them.
So let me share with you just a quick tip, because there's a few people commenting, and I appreciate this, that like, oh great, you did that. That looks like a lot of gear. It looks like a lot of tech, and it is, but here's how you can think about it for your events, because let's say
drill it down.
Yeah, let's say your events are 100 people, or maybe they're 200 people or 250 people, or less, or maybe more. Well, what you probably have at your disposal is a television and a computer. And if you create a Zoom meeting and on your computer you connect it to your television using a $4 HDMI cable, you now have a single version of those 8 TVs that we had for Pete.
Yes.
And if you then position your camera, or if you're just doing it on your computer, just stack it on a bunch of books so you can stand up in front of your computer rather than sitting down like we are today. Because remember, 3 days,
Can't
right?
sit for 3 days.
Yeah, exactly. And just going single camera like that. So being able to move around a little bit is hugely valuable. And if all you had was, the TV in your house that was connected to your computer so that you could see some of those faces, now all of a sudden you've replicated the experience that we created, but you've done it for your events, and you've done it relatively reasonably, right? Because maybe you had to go out and buy a $4 HDMI cable, or maybe you don't have a big screen TV, but admittedly, 55-inch televisions right now are $300. So you can do this. First off, you can do this. And second off, you don't have to have the $200,000 worth of gear that we have at our disposal, because we typically do live events, and that's not happening right now. So something for you to consider is think about how you can apply some of these things to your events, whether they're 30 people, 300 people, or what have you. So lots of opportunity for you to take this and actually use it. I'm just showing you what's possible if you go a little bit further than that. So there was another question. What do you do? Let's see. Did we show behind the scenes? Yes. Yeah, we did. And we're definitely going to be doing that at the virtual event on virtual events at the end of the month. We'll show a little bit more behind the scenes, because we want to make sure that you guys get a sense of what it is that we're doing. That's the entire point of it.
Like meeting the team and where they are and what they're doing, and the AV team and the help desk team. Exactly. So, but just think about your experience. Think about the host's experience if you're in the event space, if you're an event planner on this call. You want to make sure that your host has a good experience, and that at the end of the first day, they're not like, oh my God, I can't believe I signed up for this. What an absolute freaking nightmare, right? You want the experience for you or for your host, depending on your perspective. If you are the host, you want your experience to be a good one. You want to be able to engage with the people that you're teaching, and Zoom is a great platform for that. Yes,
you like that?
I do like that.
Another thing,
I actually think there's a stealth advantage. Like if you're hosting a smaller event and you have one screen, and let's say you have, 20 people, 50 people, you really can be highly interactive. So know that I think the same exact approach works for fulfillment events, which is the mastermind or the group coaching program that you were going to be delivering,
sure.
That was part of your high ticket offer. And now you're kind of in free fall thinking, what am I going to do? I sold a program with an in-person retreat or an in-person group coaching program or an in-person mastermind. All of the same stuff applies. You could still send them swag. You can still have your team check them in to make sure you have a smooth start. You can still be talking to them one-to-one. You can still send them in breakout rooms. Like all of the same stuff applies.
For sure. And some of, there's some comments in the chat like love how connected we are with Zoom these days.
Yes.
And I agree. I mean, I have to tell you, one of the things that just completely off the topic of this, but Zoom is such a cool platform to interact with larger groups and even smaller groups. I mean, Barry and her family and I have connected multiple times via Zoom.
Sunday night games. That's how we do our Sunday night family games.
Exactly. It's a great way to go through this process. I think Zoom is a great platform for a lot of these things. So,
and it's fairly intuitive. I mean, I am married to a techie. I am not a techie. And so the fact that I can use it day in, day out, and I think I'm fairly good at it.
You can work your way around a Zoom call.
Work my way around a Zoom call.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So
I think that matters, though. I mean, and in all seriousness, there's all these fancy opportunities out there, but I think the concern is the more work the attendee has to do to get to learn a new platform or a platform that's hard or that requires them to take action. I mean, translate this into the experience at an in-person event. If you're making a high ticket offer and they had to go, well, I'll tell you what, if you would like to buy this, I would like for you to walk outside, go down the hall, turn left, go past the potted plant, and then there'll be a team member there waiting for you. And like they're going to find you. That's kind of what some of these are, right? And you want to make it as easy as possible for them to find you and for them to find you again and again and again and stay with you. The more complicated it is, anyone who's remotely shy about tech is just like, you know what? I'm a little overwhelmed by this whole thing. This is a little over my head. The average person isn't trying to become a techie for 3 days so that they can watch your event. So you have to meet them where they are. Unless, of course, you have a techie audience. Maybe they'd love that. But I think the average person does not love that. For me, that'd be a big turnoff.
For sure. Absolutely. So one of the other things that we did a lot of from the host's perspective is we engaged with the audience. Not only did we allow them to engage each other, but we also had a lot of time for ahas and Q&A, much like we would at a live event. And that was a great opportunity for the host to see how they were engaged or how engaged the audience members were and see the types of questions that they were getting so that content delivery, while full sections of content did not get shifted, how that content was delivered, and in some cases, some of the focus of the content shifted slightly based on the feedback that we were getting, which is the same thing that we do at live events. So it worked really, really well. And that kind of leads me to what I think the majority of people who are doing virtual events get wrong right now. And Barry, do you want to share what that is?
The tech and the touch?
No. We've talked about this. Here's what most people are getting wrong. Most people, when they look at virtualizing a live event, is they're looking at it like a webinar that's been extended.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I meant by tech and touch. When I said tech and touch, what I meant was they kind of are the same. I get half points for that. My leaderboard is down now.
Yeah. I don't think you get half points for that. I didn't get half points for saying kinesthetic, even though I said it with not a lot of, positivity or confidence.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. That is exactly what people are getting wrong.
Yeah. And I think, so what does that mean? They're looking at it and they're saying, well, from a webinar perspective, not everybody shows up or they don't stay the entire time. So, I have to make sure that I do these shorter segments, or I can't go a full day because people have too many distractions at home, or, whatever the case may be. The approach to it is very much webinar extended for most people. And the thing that I really want you to do as you take a look at how you can get into the live event space online is look at it like a live event. And some of the things will apply And there are going to be some things that you have to throw away, and be okay with saying, no, that doesn't work in a live environment or in an online environment. But for the most part, you'll find that there is an online counterpart to almost everything that we do offline at live events. And how can you integrate that?
And sometimes they work even better when they're virtualized.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would think of what are the things that are your favorite things about your in-person event, or if this is your first time doing this, an event that you've attended that you loved. And then how can you virtualize that? And 9 times out of 10, there is a way to do it. And again, sometimes you discover a better way, which leads me to another thing. I think there's some fear around the tech not working, or this is, I think audiences are amazingly forgiving right now. I don't think this will be true forever,
No.
but I think for a short window right now, people are happy to have leadership and content, connection, and community. They need you, and they're delighted that you're meeting them where you are, and they're willing to be forgiving if things aren't flawless and perfect. It's okay to acknowledge that, the same way you would in an in-person room of, there was an AV blip, you're like, I'm sorry about that, and Bob's going to fix it. We're going to move on, that kind of thing. So it's okay to acknowledge something. Like, I thought, if it were me, and we're highly likely to say this at our own event, if we innovate something, it doesn't work exactly as we thought, is like, yeah, in my head, that was going to be a lot different than how that turned out. I mean, it gets a laugh and the audience is with you. Now, you can't do that over and over again, which leads me to my next point. Like, you want to pick some tried and true. The whole thing should not be a massive innovation. Like, you want to have some tried and true moments that you've tested out, that you feel comfortable with, that you've really thought through. It's not 3 days of improv. And then you can have a couple moments in there where you're like, I'm going to go out on a limb here and let's see how this works. And I think audiences will really love you for that and support that.
Yeah, for sure. Scott, thank you. I'm screen grabbing Scott McCain saying that is an awesome point, Blue. I know what it was for, but honestly, just having that as a screen grab, it can apply to almost anything that I say. I love that. Thank you. Like,
it's going to end up on our bathroom mirror, I think.
Oh, for sure. That is exactly what's going to
Blue's daily affirmation.
Yes. That is an awesome point, Blue. That is an awesome point, Blue. That is an awesome point, Blue. Said at 7:11 p.m. May 7th, 2020. Thank you very much. All right. So with that, you like that?
Yeah, you take coffee.
I want to say, guys, the cool thing about what's going on right now, and I know Barry said it in one of the emails that she sent that maybe you read to sign up for this webinar or this broadcast, it's that live events are far from dead. In fact, in a lot of ways, they really are outperforming their in-person counterparts, like you said. And it's exciting. And, there's all sorts of ways. Julie said that's an awesome point. Barry, you can have that too.
Thank you.
So there's a lot of ways that live events are even better than their offline counterparts right now. It's easier to get to them. I only have to walk into wherever my computer is. Were you looking at me like that?
No, I was looking at Carrie. That's gratuitous. She's just trying to court favor with Blue, I think.
I don't know about that.
Which is okay, Carrie.
I mean, honestly, for those of you that come to the event, if you start the event by saying,
you get points essentially for complimenting Blue.
Absolutely.
Make you forget where you are now.
Yeah, you totally did. I'm basically what I'm saying is this is a great opportunity for those of you who have done live events previously to continue to do live events. And for those of you who have kind of been sitting on the fence, not sure if a live event was for you because, signing a hotel contract was a little bit scary. And
you're the people I'm most excited for, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, you might be thinking, I've never even done an in-person event. How am I going to do a virtual event? I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like gold for you. I mean, if you've been waiting on the sidelines because you didn't think your list was big enough, or you didn't think you could afford the hotel, or you were worried about the liability of the rooms or the food and beverage minimum or the hotel contract, you have none of that to worry about here, which is so amazing. Blue was just helping someone recently set up her living room to do her own tech studio for, it wasn't a huge event. Do you remember how many people that was? It's a fairly small number of people.
It was about 120, I think.
Yeah, that is a great number. And, I think to also just highlight the fact that if you're in the business of leveraging a live event to launch your next coaching service, your mastermind, your group coaching program, small events convert so well. Like we have got clients who have multi-7-figure businesses who launched those businesses through a 45-person event with a single mastermind offer. Like Fabienne Fredrickson, if you follow her, she did that. Like we were part of that. And she's not alone. We have a number of clients who've done that. So whether your event is going to be for 5, 50, 500, 5,000 plus, all of this works for you. But for those of you out there who've been waiting on the sidelines, like my heartfelt wish is that you see this as your opportunity. You don't have to wait for the economy to come back. You can create your own economy, and you don't have to wait for, in-person events to come back, because you can do this right now with very little overhead. And then you're testing that offer, you're working that muscle, you're getting stronger as being a speaker and being a host, so that when in-person events do come back, you're even better positioned for them. And if you're already doing in-person events, this is literally just a minor pivot over to the other side. Like 80% is the same, and the 20% that's different, that tech and touch that we mentioned, are really easy to overcome at the end of the day. They're super simple.
For sure. So with that being said, we're coming up on almost 90 minutes. I would like to invite you guys, we would like to invite you guys to the virtual event on virtual events. I know some of you have clicked on the link already, so you've already joined. Julie, I know for sure I saw you. I saw a few others who are joining us in a few weeks. It's May 29th through the 31st. It's a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday. Yes. And a big part of I think learning how to do live events of any kind really, really well are, not to toot our own horn too much, are going to a live event experience that is done well. And we wanted to make sure that this was, nice and attainable for those of you who are thinking about doing live events yourself. The investment to do this is $97. And you don't have to get on a plane. You don't have to get a hotel room. You may have to buy some food for your house, but you don't have to go to restaurants to buy food. You don't have to get a babysitter for 3 days or what have you. So
you have to barter with your husband to watch the kids at night. Like you'll sleep in your own bed. Like all those things are what's really great about this.
Exactly.
So you spend $97 with us, and we're going to peel back the curtain and show you exactly how to virtualize your event. But also, I don't want this to get lost in the shuffle. A big part of live, love, and leverage of live events is knowing how to structure your program at a glance, what we call the 3x3 PAG.
Yep.
PAG is program at a glance, for those of you that don't know. So how do you take a 3-day event and structure it properly so the event literally does the selling for you? And that is especially important for those of you who are just stepping out into live event world or making your first high ticket offer or your next high ticket offer. There is a structure and a strategy and a formula that literally does the selling for you. When done properly, you just serve, and it makes it super easy to sell, or what we prefer to think of as enroll. So we're going to be talking about that sales as service model. We're going to be talking about how to design the structure of your event. And here's the cool thing. The structure that works in in-person event works in virtual events. So once you learn that structure, you are now ready to do either one. So you are completely ready to pivot. You want to get, the economy starts to come back, states start to reopen, people start traveling. You take all this information, host an in-person event. If you are married to the idea of a virtual event, or we're still in that space where that's all that's possible, you can do that. A lot of our hosts are saying, now that I've seen what a virtual event can do, it's an and, not nor. Next year, I'm going to do both. I'm going to have an in-person and I'm going to have a virtual. So the core content that we're going to be teaching you works for any live event. And then we're also going to be talking about how to virtualize that, how to take it and change that tech and change that touch to make it work in a virtual world.
For sure. Things that we didn't talk about too much today, but we're going to go deep on are sponsorship and how you can use that to pay, not only pay for your event in advance, because there likely are some costs, even if you have to go buy a new TV, but also how sponsorship can actually increase engagement with your audience. We discovered something really, really interesting about how to use sponsors and exhibitors in a way that actually increases and makes the attendee experience better, not just has a bunch of people trying to sell stuff.
I think sponsorship has gotten a little dull and boring.
Yeah.
There haven't been a ton of innovations in trade show or sponsorship. Not true in virtual. And we're going to talk about exactly how that works. So your sponsors are literally saying, like ours did, this was the best sponsor experience I've ever had, hands down. Forget that whether it was virtual or in person, this was the best experience.
For sure. So bottom line, when it comes to, like Barry said, 20% of virtual or online events is different from in person. It's that 20% that's core. That's what we're going to go deep on. But then we're also going to be covering, like Barry said, some of the key, strategies that we use with all of our clients for offline events. Clients like, Jeff Walker, who's also doing an online event in just a couple days. Pete Vargas, who we just did an online event for.
Dean Graziosi.
Lisa
Sasovich, Shanda Sumter.
Yeah, exactly.
Fabian
So
Fredrickson. The list goes on and on.
we're really excited. We were planning on doing a live event in early 2021.
We are.
And we decided, okay, let's, instead of doing a live event in 2021, with everything that we're learning right now about virtual events and how so many people in the virtual events or in the live event space are hurting, right? This is a great opportunity for us to be able to give back and be able to learn, because nobody's getting rich off $97, especially when we send out a box like we do.
It's a cool box.
You should see what she has included in it. I walked away from it and said, I'm not
I
part
had a
of this.
budget and I kind of blew the budget, but I think it's worth it. I'm like, you can't be out there promoting giving good swag and not give good swag. It doesn't make sense. So there you go.
Yeah. So
it's sort of like when I go to the mall, I have a target and I usually exceed it.
Yeah. Well, there it is.
I have to work harder to make more money.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, the other thing we're going to be talking about speakers and speaker guidelines and what you need to do to prep your speakers and how to bring them in, whether they're going to be showing up in person at your virtual event to teach to your audience, or whether you're going to be Zooming them in. We're going to cover all of that. So sponsors, speakers, revenue generation, high ticket offers, high tech, high touch, and also how to staff this. There's a lot of questions we're getting is what kind of team do you need and how do you train the team? We're going to be talking about coaching zones. A lot of you are thinking, I can't possibly do a coaching zone at a virtual event. Guess what? You can. We've done it twice and it really works. And we're about to innovate that next week, which I'm super excited about. So there's so many different ways that you can virtualize a live event. We're going to be talking about that with authority and experience. And we're also going to give you some insights into some amazing things we're going to be doing over the course of the summer and the fall as we continue to scale even bigger and use the tech in even better ways. But here's the thing I don't want to get lost. Both Dylan and Pete put their virtual live events together in less than 30 days. Both had 7 or multi-7-figure paydays. So if you're sitting there thinking that you can't do this, you absolutely can. But here's the best part. This event, the virtual event on virtual events, is the last weekend of May. So if you were to set that same guideline for yourself and say 30 days after that, I'm going to take everything I learned there, and 30 days later, I'm going to go ahead and put the date on the calendar now, knowing that you will know how to do it. You could be in that exact same position. So not only is there no reason to wait, you're going to learn everything you need to know so that literally by the end of June or by July or by August, but literally by the end of June, you could be hosting your own virtual event. That's pretty amazing.
I agree. It really is amazing how quickly you're able to do virtual events, because people don't need, first off, from a marketing perspective, it's a much shorter window. People don't need to plan in advance, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks in advance or more to get the time off from work or to, buy the flight or what have you. It's a lot easier to say, hey, I'm doing a live event next week, especially right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, great opportunity.
So you can do this. One of our favorite things. You can do this.
You can do this. Luis Eduardo, thank you very much for letting me know that the page says 28th through the 31st. It is 29th through the 31st. Yes. So we'll get that adjusted. Good also, these are going to be a full event day. So if you're coming, block your calendar. We're going to start like we did for Pete, 11 o'clock Eastern time, and we're going to go all the way through till about 7:30 or so on all 3 days. So. Yes. We're excited. We have some great stuff lined up for you. Lots of behind the scenes in terms of how we did it. We're going to go deep on some of the technology that allows you to do it in a much more affordable fashion than we're doing it at Zoomzilla, which is what we call the studio. But we're excited to spend 3 days with you and show you how possible this is, and to show you that you can do this.
Yes, so and don't forget to post your questions in chat. I'd love to hear what you'd love to hear us teach. It's easy to integrate that into these 3 days. Can't thank you enough for joining us tonight and for sticking with us. And we hope we're going to see you at the virtual event on virtual events.
Yeah, for sure. Are we done? Do you want to answer any questions?
Oh, sure. Are there questions?
I don't know, guys. If you have any questions while you're signing up, Helen Castillo, Chris Smith, will you look up Helen Castillo? Castilo, 2 L's, LLO. She is having some tech issues, so if you would reach out to her if you don't mind, I'd appreciate it. All right, so any questions that you guys have about any of this stuff in the chat? Lisa says that she loves us. Lisa, we love you too, and welcome. I hope you join us for the end. It would be super exciting to have you there. And Lucho, say hi to Lucho. Bob, he's going to be with us. MH says, are there replays of the event if you can't make the whole event? So much like our other clients, and like we said earlier, recordings of this event aren't available. So block your calendars. Yeah. There is an all access pass once you register for the event. If you do want an all access pass, and there are 3 things that you get with that, you can go ahead and click that button to enroll in that. You do get the recordings. The recordings are going to come probably 30 to 60 days after the event because we tidy them up and there's multiple camera angles. They're really well produced. They're going to be completely searchable. So
this is something.
Yeah. So if you were trying to find something that we taught over the course of those 3 days and you're trying to figure out where that was, we actually have a service that Stu McLaren and his team have put together called Searchy, and we use that for all of our video recordings, but specifically for this event. So you'll be able to, let's say, type in sponsorship, and it'll take you not only to the video where we talked about that, but the exact spot in the video.
If we talk about it multiple times, it'll take you to all those spots so that you immediately go to it. You don't have to search for it. We love Searchy.
Yeah.
We use it in our course. Our students love it. We love it. It is one of the single biggest innovations in the last year that has changed our life.
Yeah, for sure. So not only do you get the recordings, but they're also a lot more functional than typical recordings are, because I don't know about you, but for me, when I'm going through and revisiting recordings from a live event, I don't really want to see the whole event. I just want to go back to that one spot. Right? Like, where was that thing that person said? So I love that we've thrown that in. We're also doing 2 cocktail receptions. They're BYOC, bring your own cocktail, where Barry and I, for those of you who are all access, at the end of each day are going to end the day the way we like to end most days, and hopefully we'll end this day with a cocktail in hand.
That's highly likely.
And answering, it'll be open mic, so any questions you guys have will get answered.
We call it like the Ask Me Anything session. Like, you truly can ask us anything.
Yep.
So that'll be fun.
And then the last thing is we are opening up. We don't have any coaches here at Sage. We've got a great team, but what we are going to be doing is opening up our calendars for folks who are all access over the course of the week to week and a half after the event. And you're going to be able to hop on a short call with Barry or I, a 20-minute call, and get you
That's great, because it allows you
answered.
to kind of percolate on the content, and then any question you didn't get answered, you can get that answered. Or if you're trying to figure out how to apply it specifically to your situation, we're going to support you in that. And that's why it's only for all access and limited spots available for that.
Exactly, because that's legitimate. Unlike our clients who have great coaching teams and can rely on them to answer questions, when it comes to strategy and especially this new stuff, it's Barry and I. So we're the ones you're going to talk with. Chris Smith, Sandra Julian would like to know how she can upgrade because she already has enrolled. So if you can, Sandra, we'll fire you off a link so that you can do that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Let's see. Rebecca Hansen, question, will you be talking about syncing Facebook Live with Zoom, like if I wanted to broadcast an hour segment on Facebook Live? I can cover that, Rebecca. That is probably niche, but we can. This is something that these live events, we highly recommend using Zoom as a platform rather than Facebook Live. But if you're looking to take a certain portion of it, And the reason why is because they can be a lot more interactive, right? Even this experience that you're having right now is kind of fly on the wall. We're talking to a camera. I don't see any of you. It's not as nice as a Zoom meeting where I can see all of you. But we wanted to...
but is she saying take the meeting and
broadcast it into Facebook Live, which you can...
for Pete? How do we...
We didn't do that exactly.
Certain sessions.
We did live stream certain sections. So we will talk about how you can do that and cover that. But truthfully, that's a built-in feature of Zoom, which is kind of nice, especially if that's something that you're looking to do. So we will cover that. Peggy Kelly, I will also make sure, for those of you that didn't click the link to upgrade to all access, we'll send you out a link. If you would like to do that, we'll get you there. Yeah. Carrie, thanks for joining us tonight. We're looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Love Carrie.
And Audrey says, awesome job, guys. Thanks for making us be a part of it and seen behind the scenes as ambassadors. Audrey, we are happy to have you be a part of it. It will be a great time, and we're looking forward to doing it. You have anything you want to share? Wrapping up.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I've been in this industry literally since the day I graduated from college, so it's been a little while.
It's been 2.5 years. 2.5 years. 2.5 years. 2.5 years.
Exactly. And I have never seen something like this. I don't think any of us have. I've never seen such a massive amount of innovation in such a short amount of time, such a massive change in the industry in such a short amount of time, and so much devastation. I mean, you have hotel partners furloughed and let go, and having to restart this engine. It's crazy what has happened to our world, to our economy, to our hotel partners, to the vendors who serve this industry, AV partners, print and product partners. We've never seen anything like this. And when it first happened, admittedly, we kind of thought, I don't know what you do. I think we had 8 events cancel, 8 events postponed, and 22 events we had to renegotiate. And every day was a new story, and every day was a new kind of drama in the event space of what was going to happen. And we did have this moment of just like, wow, is this like the end of our business? Is this the end of events? Because can you recover from this? And what I most love about the space that we serve, this entrepreneurial space, is how resilient it is. You take a minute to mourn, and then you pick yourself up and you move on and you get momentum and you go. That's what all makes us incredible at being business owners. And if there's one thing that's going to save the American economy, and I'll go so far as one thing to save the global economy, it's going to be entrepreneurs. It's going to be people who get out there and bootstrap it together and are courageous and fearless and don't take no for an answer and reinvent themselves. And they'll bring everybody along with them. I so believe that. I believe it to our core. And I know that live events are a big part of that. I know the ripple effect that we see every single day. What gets us up at 5 in the morning, gets our teams up at 5 in the morning. We're working until 11, 12, 1 o'clock, barely sleeping. And we love live events despite all of that, is that when you help a host connect with their audience and get their big dream accomplished, help them have that impact, help them start that legacy by creating their mastermind program or creating their group coaching program, you've had real impact in the world. And then the next year, when you come back, and we're lucky enough to have a lot of repeat business, and you see that attendee who was scared to death to buy that high ticket offer, but they did, and then they're up on stage on the success panel talking about how their life changed, it's all worth it. This work that we do in this space, we and you do in this space, is such important work. And I am so glad that we have this opportunity to virtualize it and to make it available, that it doesn't have to be the end. It's just the beginning. And quite frankly, it's the beginning of something better than we ever could have imagined, because it is an and, not nor. People keep asking what's going to happen when the pendulum swings back. And the answer is it's going to be an and, not nor. In-person events are not dead, and virtual events will not go away. So learning how to leverage this new opportunity is critical. I think in a virtual economy, in a new economy, and possibly what is going to be an incredibly deep recession, it's going to be important to create your own economy. And live events, virtual events are absolutely one of the ways to do that, not just for yourself, but for the people that you serve. It's so important that you get out there and you touch the people that you serve and you help guide them. They're looking for leadership. They're looking for content. They're looking for connection. They're looking for community. They're looking for you. And you can do this.
I have nothing else to say. I knew Barry would say something very impactful. You always do. I love you so much.
I believe it. And I have to thank you. Like, I can say this in all honesty, we would not be here without you. Like, there's no chance that I could have pulled this off without Blue. I get a lot of the credit in our company. I'm often the face of our company, but absolutely the person who's made all of this a reality for Sage, for our team, for our clients, for their audiences is you, because you love tech. And it's so fun to watch you be in your genius. Geeking out and seeing what you've been able to accomplish. I mean, I'm in total awe, and I couldn't have done it without you. I'm so blessed that you're a part of this. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. All right, folks, we'll see you May 29th through the 31st for the virtual event on virtual events. But if not there, I'm sure we'll see each other again soon. So
bye for now.
Bye for now.
That's a wrap.